In the past years, Glorious haven't built the best name for themselves. But who said they won't be able to make it all back? Here I have the Glorious Model D2 Pro, so let's talk about it. If you are expecting something totally different, I'm sorry, it is not. To be honest, the shape, the feel in the hand, and even the number and placement of the buttons are exactly the same. Even the packaging isn't any better. It's just a basic Glorious box with the mouse, cable, receiver, and a bunch of strange skates that I'll cover in a second. At least the dongle supports 4K now, right? I mean, it's pretty comfortable in the hand, it's best suited for palm grip. You can also claw it if you like clawing ergos, but I would advise you to stay away from fingertipping because who would wanna fingertip a mouse like this? Coating, if I could call it that, is pretty good. It's not really a coating, it's a textured plastic. It reminds me a bit of a Viper V2 Pro, but it's not that aggressive. I had no issues of the mouse sliding out of my hand, but it wasn't really my favorite. Glorious hasn't exactly built a reputation on build quality, but again, this one is pretty decent. Maybe even good? I mean, squeezing it from the sides, it has a slight bit of flex, but it's miles better than the Gen 1 was. And also, you're not gonna really be squeezing it that hard during gaming. The rest of the shell was pretty solid. Left and the right click felt really responsive, spammable, and probably the best ones I've ever felt on a Glorious mouse. There's a slight pre- and post-travel, which worsens towards the front, but using it normally in the middle, I've had no issues. The biggest surprise for me was button wobble, of which this mouse has almost none. See, Final Mouse, you can actually make buttons that don't feel like on a $5 mouse. Anyway, scroll wheel felt great, it was nice and defined, very quiet, and also the middle click was actually great. It was great. Side buttons are placed great and they are easily accessible. There's a bit of pre- and post-travel, but actually still very spammable and very usable. But for some reason, my back button was twice as loud as the forwards button, but that might be a problem of my particular copy. On the top, you can also find a rare occurrence of a DPI button, which felt very mushy, but whatever, we have a DPI button, right? Anyway, flipping the mouse, we have a DPI LED, we have an on-off switch, and skates. I've always loved Glorious skates because they felt nice, glided well, and that hasn't changed at all. They worked great on both harder and softer pads, but for the softer pads, I would advise you to use the strange add-ons you've got in the package, because if you're a heavy-handed gamer, they're probably gonna dig into your pad and feel a bit scratchy. I would also like to see additional replacement skates in the box for $130, but whatever, I digress. Setting up the mouse was also a breeze. You can find everything from DPI, polling, liftoff, motion sync, all the way to separate debound settings. I've never seen these from another company, but Glorious lets you set up separate debound settings for every action it could be meaningful for. Even though, yes, I was the guy that just pulled everything towards the zero and just went on with it. Fortunately, everything worked great, so that's a plus for Glorious. The optical switches worked flawless, also the sensor worked flawless, which is the Glorious's Banff 2.0. They offer a 1K version and also a 4K/8K version, which is the version I have here, so let's speak about that. I have to give props to Glorious because everything worked flawless. Everything I set up worked flawless. It had 0 dropouts, 0 signal problems. It was seriously flawless. The only real problem I've had with this mouse was the battery life. In 2 hours of using the mouse on 4K polling, I've lost 30% of the battery. This, in my book, is unacceptable. I really hope Glorious are gonna fix this with the future firmware update because the mouse is actually great. So other than the horrendous battery life, I think Glorious actually revenged themselves and made a product that's worth recommendation. So if you're a fan of Glorious and you've been patiently waiting for this moment, go ahead and buy the mouse. For anyone else watching this video, like and subscribe would be nice and helpful, and I'll see you again next Friday. Bye!